Hey guys, in this video I wanted to share with you a little bit of my personal insomnia recovery journey, and I actually was receiving this request for a long time and getting this kind of questions, how my journey looked like, how long it took me, what I did, and what worked for me, and so on and so on. And I was always careful when it was about my personal insomnia journey, because knowing how insomnia works, sometimes it could lead the person towards another rabbit hole. Because if you've been following my videos for some time, you probably know that the way I explain insomnia is that insomnia is the problem of problem solving, meaning that when we experience sleep troubles for some time, regardless of how perfect conditions we have, the reason why these sleep difficulties continue is that we keep focusing on fixing sleep, and that attention results in the opposite outcome. So the more we try to sleep, the less sleep we get. And this is why whenever person would hear some success story, what they would try to do, they would try to get this kind of tip or trick to help them to get rid of insomnia. Paradoxically, that activity would turn into an effort, meaning that it would eventually backfire. Because the truth is, it's not about the actions as such, it is about the intentions behind those actions. So this is why I want to have like a huge kind of like note here regarding this video, that I really wouldn't want it to be that kind of content that a person would take it as something, okay, let me try this, and they will try to kind of like recreate the same, try to get the same outcome or the same process that I had, that would just take them, lead them to another rabbit hole. But at the same time, I also realized that when you're going through, such a difficult experiences as insomnia, sometimes you need to see some sort of encouragement, see validation of your emotions, fears, and experiences, and see that others might experience exactly the same things what you are going through, which can help you feel a bit more normal, more okay. So this is why it was like the reason that I wanted to make this video. But again, I really want to be clear that that was my personal insomnia recovery journey, and in no way I mean that this is how every recovery should go. So that means that, let's say, if you had a feeling that you've been on this path for a while and you witnessed some good moments in your recovery journey, and now for some reason you feel worse, I hope this video will bring you more peace, more clarity. And at the same time, if you've been, if now you're in a good place, you're not experiencing any major, speed bumps, and just know that then it's also great, then whatever I will tell you, whatever I'll show today in my kind of like insomnia recovery journey, it doesn't have to happen to you, So I just want to kind of say that we are all different, the journey might be different, and just keep that in mind. And also keep in mind that I'm not a doctor, so none of this in any form, none of this is medical advice, and with that said, I will start. So I made two drawings. So the first drawing is this. I'm going to show you this one. This is my expectation of a journey, meaning that when I began to learn about insomnia, when I got introduced to the concepts of hyperarousal, sleep anxiety, and so on, I thought that my recovery path will go like this. So that means that in the beginning it's very intense, a lot of fear, a lot of frustration, insomnia is on its highest point, and then with practice, with learning more, it will just fade away, it will be really smooth. And I know many people have also similar kind of expectations, but I want to say that this is nothing what it looked in reality for me. And I'm going to show you my real, or at least as much accurate as possible, timeline, how it looked, the graph. So approximately something like this. just to explain what we are looking at here. So I made kind of like a timeline, roughly speaking, from the first month when my insomnia started till the moment when I was just, actually from January 2020, when I first had my insomnia, till April 2021. In April 2021, I had my first success story with Daniel. I was a guest on his podcast, so I just kind of took this kind of, timeline. So roughly speaking, it is 16 months. So, and here I just want to walk you through the process here, like or the stages that I went through. So as just for you to understand, like these high points, meaning that higher it is, like more hyperarousal, more turbulent things are, and in general we feel like very anxious, scared, frustrated. So paradoxically, from the moment it started till the moment I understood what is happening to me, it was not that long time. So basically, if you can see the first time, actually I'm going to take this. From the first point when I just lost sleep, it was like very kind of like it spiraled down very quickly, and I was just having like a lot of fear, a lot of panic here. I didn't know what was happening. I was truly believed that there is something physically wrong with me. I was going to different doctors, getting checked and everything, and I simply couldn't know what was happening here. So this intense period is roughly speaking like 2 months. Then at some point I kind of started thinking about that it might be something from anxiety itself, and this is where I started digging into understanding what is fear, how it is formed, what is anxiety, how phobias are manifesting, and how people treat phobias and so on. And this is when I started seeing a lot of familiar things that happen with, let's say, different phobias, like phobia of panic attacks, and these were very similar to insomnia. So I started kind of using that knowledge in order to understand what is happening to me. And paradoxically, this kind of lowered my hyperarousal in general, because there was less and less mystery, and I started doing like better. I could, during this period of time, this is where I also stumbled upon Coach Daniel's videos from the Sleep Coach School. That was really helpful. That was like the initial learning process for me, where I had still moments when I had ups and downs, but generally I felt hopeful. I knew that before it was much worse. Now I have some sort of like direction. Sleep is not perfect yet, but I'm moving on. So I had this kind of like at that point, I would say my expectation was like this, that it would be happening like this, fading away with time. And around May 2020, I can consider myself that at the time I knew everything what I should know about insomnia, about hyperarousal, how to work with it. And at that point I started feeling more confident and more at peace, meaning that I was becoming okay with the idea of being awake at night, which paradoxically, when we are not feel threatened by being awake at night, we are more likely to sleep well, And this is when a pretty long period of time of good sleep started to happen. And I just want to, I know that here it seems like it's just like, a little bit of, bumps and it's over. Just to, show you here, this small period of time is 1 month. So, just to get context here, because many people will sometimes they find let's say teachings that I do, and they are maybe 2 weeks into learning this, and for them they think like okay, a lot of work has been done, but in reality, for example, this bumpy period was like lasting like around 2 months or something. So, and there I had a period of time where I consider myself as cured. I mean, like I'm recovered fully. I don't have insomnia anymore, but you see what is about to happen. But this is where I was feeling so hopeful. I felt like, okay, I know I figured out insomnia. I left it behind me, and nothing can go wrong from this moment. But little did I know that exactly this kind of mindset of I figured out insomnia, I now kind of got it under control, created the possibility of spiraling back again, spiraling down, where it was one innocent night where for some reason I couldn't fall asleep, and then I started thinking and so on, and then the first reaction was like, I should get back on track. That I just give this thing like a couple of days and I will be back here. This is where was a clear attempt to control sleep again. And as the desire to control sleep was growing, so does, you know, the hyperarousal, the whole thing started. And this kind of phase was pretty long, as you can see, so it was like very bumpy. It's like, it's not exactly accurate, but I just wanted to show that it was very, like, with a lot of ups and downs. I constantly felt this hyperarousal. I felt very discouraged because, you know, compared to this, I thought that I'm not supposed to have this. So, you know, and that was, again, it was pretty long period of time. And I cannot say, like, whether it was one huge speed bump or maybe it was, like, many small ones. I was having, like, 1 or 2 nights of good sleep, and then again, I was, like, in this kind of pattern, so it was, like, all over the place. It was pretty rough. Until some moment when, you know, for me, it was more like point where I started getting interested in some particular topic, and I was reading a book. I really liked that book, and at one kind of speed bump when I couldn't fall asleep, and I said, you know what, great, I can just go and read that book. And interestingly, that, you know, the desire to go to do something that, or looking forward to doing something really pleasant and using a speed bump to do something what I like, created this kind of interesting situation where I started, you know, I slightly changed the way how I looked at wakefulness again, because here I learned all the concepts of, you know, accepting, befriending wakefulness, you know, all the nice stuff, but it's still like, you know, there was still kind of part of me was like, I mean, I'm okay with wakefulness, but I would rather not have it. But here it was the opposite. Here I was really looking forward to that. And interestingly, this is where, you know, I started sleeping again. So, and during the time, I knew that, you know, even if I will, you know, keep having struggles again, I would just get up, I will continue reading that book. That's it. But that interest was genuine. I was not trying to fake it. I was truly interested in that. So just in case you might have an idea, like, okay, now I need to read a book or, you know, do something fun. That's not about the action. It's about this kind of like genuine, honest, you know, following your passion, interest, you know, and using opportunity to do that when, let's say, you know, you're awake. And then you can see here is like a very strange thing. This is what many people describe, and I agree with them, as something like, you know, feeling kind of like stuck. Things are not great, but they are not the worst. So here you can say I entered some sort of a pattern where I was sleeping really good, you know, this good, you know, before. And then every moment I felt like I figured it out. Now I understand what I need to do. I had this moment of clarity, and I felt again this kind of hopeful, just like here, or, you know, confident. Bam! I had this kind of speed bump. Then the speed bump was over, and just to say, like, any speed bump eventually ends. Even these ones, you know, like speed bump is, you know, starts and then it kind of ends again, starts and ends. So, you know, any speed bump ends. But then I got into this kind of, again, clarity mode where I was sleeping, I didn't have any problems. Then I again started having feeling like, you know what, this time I feel like this is it, you know. And the moment when I kind of admitted to myself, like, okay, this is it, I know what is happening, this happened again. And then it started happening, and I kind of started losing interest in even figuring out or completing the journey in general, because I was like, every time I say this is it, every time I have this is it, this happens. Then it comes back, but then again it happens, you know. So for me, I kind of started getting more, you know, kind of mildly irritated, and also I lost interest in just continuing figuring it out. Paradoxically, that loss of interest is something that eventually, the insomnia kind of like it faded away. I cannot say that there was a moment when this kind of like click happened where I just like, okay, now I see my, now I'm cured, this thing is behind me. It's kind of faded away. As I lost interest in the whole insomnia journey, in the whole this kind of like, trying to figure out things, it was no longer an issue. So, and that means that maybe here were some, it was probably like once a month I would have like maybe 1 week or something like this. There was some sort of like kind of pattern here when I had this, increased hyperarousal, and then it was over again, back to better sleep again. I experienced this kind of weird thing, and this is something that I hear some people experience that, not everyone, and if you don't experience that, that's totally okay. It's just my journey here. In the beginning, my biggest problem was all-nighters. I was like, I could go without sleep for many days in a row, but again, knowing that there is such thing as sleep state misperception, meaning that we might feel aware or awake while our body is sleeping. That's probably like, this is what usually happens here when we feel like we don't sleep at all, yet we have somehow energy, or at least we are able to walk and move and so on. Already shows that even though without us knowing we were sleeping. So and so basically here what was happening is that I had kind of like two types of night. Either it was just any other normal night, or it was the whole nighter. So it was, you could see like I had this kind of like a very double situation there, either perfect or terrible. And with time, as I was kind of witnessing like everything that was happening to me, I truly became uninterested in just really figuring out the whole insomnia thing, and this is eventually led me, I stopped even thinking about it. And if there is one more thing I just wanted to add, is that the fact that this happened and this happened and this happened gave me this kind of like very strong knowledge that no matter if this ever happens again in the future, I can get over it. I managed to get through this. I will get through this as well, and I will get through this as well. So actually having all those speed bumps, seeing myself going through the worst, through kind of like what usually people call it as going back to square one, going through this after sleeping so well, going through these kind of patterns, gave me this knowledge that even though something in the future will happen, I will be okay. Paradoxically, you stop resisting even if it will happen in the future, which leads to things just, the insomnia fades away. You no longer think about it, not because you figured out how to sleep, but because you're no longer surprised. You're not interested in that game to figure it out. And this basically was kind of my journey. I don't know, I feel like it's not really an interesting one. I see many people going through the same thing, and many people contact me in this phase. Usually, person who contact me, they're rarely on here when they're just like, don't know what is happening to them and so on. People come to me when they say that I know everything, I understand everything, and I've seen myself doing so well, and now I'm back. I'm doing worse than before, so they feel really discouraged. But I want to tell, knowing my experience, that can happen. That's absolutely okay. And again, if anyone who is listening now, if you're doing fine and you never had this kind of stuff, that's okay too. That doesn't mean that everyone has to go through this. I just say that this is my personal journey, and yet it led me to eventually quitting the whole insomnia story. And if I could even describe a little bit kind of emotional state, what kind of dominating emotion was throughout a particular stage of my journey, I would say that in the beginning, this kind of a moment when I didn't know what was happening, literally, I didn't know that, I could not be sleeping only because of hyperarousal. That was a very rough time where I was panicky, when I truly was scared for my life. So it was very intense. Here is more like, anxiety, but also mixed with some sort of like hope. Here there was still like I was looking for the thing. There should be the thing. Maybe not something like material, like like a supplement or a ritual, but there was like, okay, I was having this kind of like, okay, there is hope, and here usually expectation is like that it would just go down like this. Here, celebration. I was really rejoicing. I consider it as victory that created a foundation for this happening. So just know that when I was doing really well, I was extremely happy. I was very proud of myself, and yeah, it created the situation when suddenly there's something to lose, and I didn't want this ever happen again, so this one happened. Here, confusion, frustration, again fear, mostly frustration, because I would say it felt even stronger than here, because I knew that I had it, I had it, and something went wrong. I thought that something went wrong. And here is, I would say, annoyance. I was annoyed. I was not surprised. I was bored, but annoyed. So it was not like, hyperarousal was here and there, but here I was more like kind of generally, maybe a little bit sad. So yeah, and the truth is, if I wouldn't have this thing here, I would not probably, reach to that level of understanding that I have right now, where basically, there's no such topic as sleep for me personally. I don't think about it, and I believe that each kind of like this up and down creates this opportunity to show our brain that you can get through all sorts of like difficult situations, and in the end you're going to be all right. And this is something that we cannot persuade our brain to believe in rationally. We can try to say mantras and everything, like you are safe, you're at peace and everything. It will not believe it until it has to go through this, until it can say, you know what, I'm not like, there's nothing that can surprise me anymore. I'm ready for anything, just bring it on. And yeah, I hope that kind of explains a little bit of my journey, and maybe if the one last thing I want to kind of like put here, like emphasize that, so if I take like the beginning of my journey started, let's say here, because this is where I actually started understanding what is happening to me and understanding like, okay, which direction to move from there. Before, I had roughly saying like, let's say 2 months of very dark place, but I know that each person's story can be different. Someone had it like for a couple of weeks, someone had it one day, someone had it months or years. And now logically, someone might assume, okay, so if I struggle, let's say 10 years, so I need to multiply this 10 times or whatever, like, or more. And to me, to be honest, that's not how I think about recovery journey. For me, recovery journey for anyone starts here. The moment when you realize it's all about fear, that's it. And after that, no matter how long this phase was lasting, it kind of, the length of it is more or less the same, because I witnessed people who had like 5 years of insomnia and so on, and their recovery sometimes were even like, you could see that they were shorter, like they recovered in a shorter time than I did. Someone might take even longer. That's absolutely fine. But I would say that just to not be kind of maybe discouraged if someone had longer insomnia, that they need to kind of like have it for, the whole journey will take them like ages. Because, in order to teach our brain something, we need approximately plus minus similar amount of time. And for anyone who is thinking about like, okay, but then maybe if I had insomnia just for 1 month, then it's maybe my journey will be half the way. That's also doesn't have to be that way, because you see, like, you know, insomnia, as I usually say, insomnia has a very long tail recovery. So that means that, you know, here might be things move faster, but then they kind of slow down, and then, you know, until it all fades away. So yeah, I hope this made sense. I hope whoever is watching this now, it brought some clarity here, maybe hope, and just want to know that if your journey looks different, just also know that it's absolutely okay as well, because any, you know, so many people I was talking to, and each, if I would draw a graph for every person, it would look differently. It will have similar patterns, but it would still, like, let's allow ourselves to have this kind of differences, because we are different in certain way. So yeah, I hope this video was a little bit useful. I don't know if it was useful. Let me know in comments what you think about it. Maybe share your personal, you know, journey, how it went, and let me know if you want to hear more about my, you know, personal aspects of my personal recovery story, if this is something that is of any interest to you. And thank you for listening to me. Have a nice day. Bye.